great. But I really want real half and half.
There were a few times today when I was revoking invitations where I knew the person, where I'm like, oh, Alan Char, I'm sorry. Oh, Mike McLaughlin, I know you'll understand. Linnell was one of them.
Oh. Well, we still love you, Mom.
She was like, she probably didn't even realize. She's going to get that email and go, what is this?
Yeah, she probably was very confused by
Just
the whole thing.
delete
it. Like in general, she's like, Discord, I don't know. How do I get in there? I'm like, Mom, you're in there. I see you in there. Like literally, it's like a green little light by your name. She's like,
I won't call you out, person. But with the confusion of the invite that didn't work to the wrong Slack, someone messaged me in the boss's Slack saying that their Slack was deauthorized. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not going to judge you because I just sent 216 invites to the wrong server, but you're in Slack right now telling me. So obviously this Slack is working. He's like, oh yeah, good point.
No, it's funny. You get to these situations, like I had to use an old laptop to record a episode of Have Such a Good Day with Heather Frank, my co-host. And, it's an old laptop. It's like circa 2010, lots of things where I'm like, what's your Wi-Fi password? And like, we tried to like put it in, wasn't working. And she was like, let me just Slack it to you. And I'm like, no, but I don't have the internet. Like where she's like, oh yeah, of course. I'll just, I message it to you. I'm like, again, don't have the internet. Like, it's so weird when you're like missing this like very obvious thing. I hear you, Amos.
Well, I was just thinking earlier today, I was playing some mobile games. And of course, one of the tricks is to put your phone in airplane mode so you can't get the ads. You can just keep playing the game. And I was waiting at my appointment and I was doing that. And then later on, my wife was like, didn't you get the home texts? And I was like,
oh, no.
I must have been in a no cell zone.
April Fools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, of course, once I turned it back on, my phone just flooded with notifications that I'd missed.
Did you guys want to get your April Fool's jokes out of the way before we start the show? Anybody got some good stuff?
Did mine by inviting people into a server I wouldn't allow them into.
That is, haha.
April Fools, how many people are thinking that was what it was,
Yeah, nobody's actually said that seriously in any seriousness yet. I did pull my spider on your shoulder this morning. That's my yearly,
on your wife.
Yeah.
Yep. Bet she loved that.
She sort of half fell for it. Like, what? Oh, never mind.
April 1st. Right. After all of our, hemming and hawing about like, do we care about April 1st? Do we not? We were like, yeah, did the spider joke.
I said when we were talking about that last week, you may not remember or didn't hear. I said I will do the spider joke. That is my one.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I did miss that.
I haven't done April Fool's jokes since I was very little because my birthday is the first week of April. So there's always like this weird, we're doing this such blah 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 blah, and then it always ends up in disappointment. So
when is your birthday?
Saturday.
Oh. Happy early birthday.
You guys,
I'll be 42 this year, so I will be.
You're so young.
I know, you're a baby. So April 6th.
Yes,
this
ma'am.
is your birthday. Okay, we're going to put that on the little calendar.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun,
I did
dun.
an April Fool's video for CNET years ago where I reviewed a new mobile carrying case that was basically a suitcase, like a full-size suitcase. I don't know if it's still around.
Why was it a joke?
Because it was a joke about carrying cases for phones, making the phones huge. So it was like, here's this new carrying case. You put your phone inside.
Which is maybe less funny now because phones are so big.
I know. This was before big phones.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the people now would be like, I don't get it.
Yeah, like, what was the joke? A suitcase for a phone? Whatever, Tom.
Yeah, and that's why I don't do April Fool's jokes anymore.
You know what we should do? A show.
A show.
Yep.
No April Fool in there. All right. Everybody ready?
Yep.
Here we go. In 3, 2. Kimberly Herbert has supported independent tech news directly for 5 years. Be like Kimberly. Become a DTNS member right now. Patreon.com/DTNS. This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, April 1st, 2019 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Our intern, Amos, is alongside as well today. How's it going, Amos?
I am doing well. Happy April.
It's a April Fool's free zone. We have no April Fool's stories. I'm not fooling you when I say that.
That we know of.
I feel like the internet calmed down this year.
I mean, we might have set the tone, I have to say.
Not
to take too much credit, but like, yeah, I woke up today feeling like it's going to be one of those April Fool's days. Not really.
That was fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a few tech things you should know.
Cloudflare.
Sorry.
It's all right. Cloudflare announced an update to their 1.1.1.1 app, which now integrates a VPN called Warp. Warp encrypts all internet traffic from a device to the point that it hits Cloudflare's network and then uses a Google-developed protocol called QUIC, which builds on UDP to offer improved reliability, replacing Transmission Control Protocol, also known as TCP. Might know that one. Cloudflare claims that using QUIC and routing traffic over their wide network will noticeably decrease page loads while offering improved security. Warp will be available in an update to the 1.1.1.1 app as of April 1st, with paid plans available for greater access speeds.
As far as we know, not an April Fool's joke. Not a very funny one if it was.
No.
Airbnb confirmed it has invested in India's hospitality services and booking aggregator OYO, which sources say to TechCrunch is worth between $150 to $200 million. In a late 2018 funding round, OYO was valued at $5 billion. Companies are exploring having some of OYO's 500,000 rooms across 13,000 hotels and 6,000 homes in 8 countries listed on Airbnb. Let's talk about Facebook. The Facebook PR machine was in.
Tom, I'm so glad.
This weekend.
It's
I know
so
it's been too long, right?
Yeah. Right.
Here's what Facebook was up to this weekend. In an interview with Axel Springer, we've got 4 things. So we'll go through them one by one and see what we think of them. Here's number 1. In an interview with Axel Springer CEO Matthias Döpfner, Mark Zuckerberg said he wants to create a section of Facebook devoted to high quality news. So a section of the website, like a tab. He even mentioned the idea of paying the publishers for the right to list their content there. Facebook tested moving news content into an Explore tab, but it ended that test back in March of last year. What do you think of Zuck kind of floating out this idea of like, hey, we know you just passed a copyright directive in the EU for this, but we'll gladly pay you.
I mean, I don't know, man. For high quality news, I am used to paying a premium. That's how lots of news publications work.
You wouldn't have to pay, though.
Well, somebody would.
Facebook would. Facebook said it would be a non-revenue generating thing meant to just improve the quality of discourse in the world.
So why wouldn't it be the news tab in general?
Well, they want to create a high quality news tab where it's like the news tab is what people are sharing with each other. That's your personalized news. The high quality news tab would be curated. This is stuff that you can rely on if you want even more news than just what's getting shared from your friends.
Yeah, okay. I sort of liken this to like when a laundry detergent is like extra strength and you're like, well, shouldn't it all be extra strength? Like high quality news, like Facebook, like clearly this is an issue that you have across your entire network this entire time. So yes, high quality is better, but it's confusing to me how it would be implemented.
I think I understand what he's after. It's okay. Basically like you've got your news feed from your friends, right? Just the way it is now. And then you've got a tab that's sort of like, hey, if you're worried that, your friends and relatives are feeding you a bunch of crap news, and you want to see the high quality stuff, you want to see curated stuff, you want to see stuff that's not just being passed around by your friends and family, check this out. We've got a curated high quality section that's like Apple News Plus or like Google News. tech meme where it's like, we're pulling together the good stuff for you rather than you relying on your friends and family who you need to connect with for other reasons, but may not be the best trusted place to get your news.
I would add just they would have a lot of they would have a very huge road to hoe, because there's been just so much there's so much around news and Facebook in whatever combination that people would automatically put that into a question mark, like, would I go here or would I just open a new tab and check a news source that I trust?
Yeah, like, but if Facebook were saying, because I know a lot of people who've requested this, I want someone to pull from multiple sources in a way that I trust. If they were able to pull that off, that would actually rehabilitate exactly
yes,
what
it would.
saying.
And I think it just see how the actual product looks.
Listen, that's just one of the four. Mark Zuckerberg also published an op-ed in the Washington Post calling for internet regulation across 4 areas. He said, we need internet regulation worldwide against harmful content, to preserve election integrity, to protect privacy, and to encourage data portability. He suggested creating third-party bodies to set standards governing the distribution of harmful content and having companies graded against those standards, privacy regulation in the mold of the EU's GDPR, and support for the Data Transfer Project for standardizing data portability. Starting May 2nd, Facebook announced that a "Why am I seeing this" post button will show up in the drop-down menu of every item in the news feed. So not just with ads now, but anything that's shared in your news feed from your friends and family, you can find out, okay, why is this showing up for me? Is it because I always like the things from my Aunt Esther? Is it because I once said that I really like nachos? It'll tell you all that sort of stuff. And finally, Facebook said it deleted 712 accounts and 390 pages in India and Pakistan for inauthentic behavior. 549 of the accounts and 138 of the pages were said to be linked to India's Congress Party. Congress said none of its official pages or any of the ones run by its verified volunteers were taken down. But there is an election coming up April 11th, so Facebook's trying to get ahead of that. Pages removed in Pakistan were said to be run by employees of the Pakistani military's public relations arm, the Inter-Services Public Relations Agency, or ISPR. So to sum up, we've got floating the ideas of curating news to improve the quality of news on Facebook. We've got an op-ed where Facebook says, please, we're big enough, we can take it, regulate us, help us out here so we don't always have to take the brunt of the criticism. And then you have explanations of the news feed coming and a crackdown ahead of a very important election in India.
I think Facebook is trying very hard to convince people that it's turned over a new tree.
You mean a new leaf? Oh, you mean a lot of leaves.
Like the whole tree.
The entire tree.
And they've made promises before, and and subsequent release leaks shown that they haven't been as.
There's no promises here, though.
Oh, I know. But that's part of it. I mean, it's easy to say that you do something rather than do it. And so I think
they're saying, maybe we'll do this. They're saying, please, governments do that. They're saying we're doing this May 2nd, and we just did this accounts and deletions. So there's no promises in here. There's no we might do it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. I think, at least from my point of view, until they actually do something substantial, all of this will always come off.
So none of this is substantial enough for you. The adding of the "why am I seeing this" post button and the deleting of 712 accounts and 390 pages, not substantive.
To me, it just feels like you're patching up a leaky roof. You're not.
I actually will say the "why am I seeing this" feature is going to be very helpful. When I am on Facebook today, there are people from my past, family members, people I went to college with, high school, people that are in my life now, and we're all very different. And there is you sort of end up getting this sense of like, why am I seeing all this stuff? And I think that if you understand that, like, oh yeah, it's my uncle that may have political views that are different than mine, like, sure, that makes sense. But collectively, it ends up being sometimes a little bit of an issue. And to have more information about why you're seeing the things that you're seeing and why your news feed is the way that it is, and maybe it's upsetting you a little bit, maybe it isn't, that is good information to have.
Well, yeah, because it can change your behavior of like, you know what, I'm not going to like that person's posts anymore because it's going to make that show up.
Yeah.
Or, and we didn't mention this part of it, but there is also going to be a feature that you can say, oh, see this kind of thing first, unfollow these kinds of things, change my newsfeed preferences. Like you'll be able to make some of those choices right from this drop-down menu information.
Chang Hyun quit his lucrative researcher job at Samsung to start his own YouTube channel. Why are we talking about this? Well, I'll tell you. His story appears to be a bit of a trend, at least in South Korea. South Koreans had the shortest job tenure among member countries in the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, as of 2012. Now, this is just 6.6 years compared to the average of 9.4 years. And if you're looking at Japan, 11.5 years. The survey also showed just 55% of South Koreans were satisfied with their jobs, the lowest rate in the entire OECD.
You know, I'm watching one of the most popular, if not the most popular show in South Korea right now called Sky Castle. And it's entirely about the pressures that families put on their children to succeed in their exams, to get into a good college, etc. So it's funny. Like I get like maybe that's why that show is so popular, because it is such a big pressure and a big part of life there. And this shows that some kids are saying, you know what, enough. I don't want to go into the system and become a manager at Samsung. I want to move out to a farm. This Reuters story said a lot of more folks are moving out into the countryside
very
now,
much so.
which used to be taboo. Like, oh, you're from the countryside, you're so low class. But the tide is changing there. And YouTube, as one of those things that allows people to do that, I think is really fascinating.
And it's interesting because like other developed countries, South Korea has typically higher youth unemployment versus the general employment figures, typically 2 to 3 times higher. And their jobs tend to be more precarious. You might have a job, but whether or not you'll have it for the same length of time, say, as your father, who had that same position, is also a big question mark. And so I think what you see here in Korea is probably a more extreme example, but generally all over, where people say, well, why am I literally working myself to death if my position in 10 years time is not going to be any better than it is today? Like there's definitely a shift in going and running through the entire kind of academic gauntlet to secure a job doesn't mean that job is secure anymore. I mean, you see the same
I would add to that, you also have an alternative.
Yes.
Right. More so than ever. And maybe not so much with the farming, but YouTube is a thing where like, well, I could try that. That's something I could do. It's risky, but there may have not even been any viewable alternative for the generation before.
And yeah, definitely. I mean, the South China Morning Post had a story from December of last year, which indicated that 8 out of 10 Korean millennials wanted to leave the country if they could, like immigrate out to somewhere else, because I think there's just a level of dissatisfaction that you get when you're kind of pressured into doing a lot. Basically, okay, so I'm gonna step back here and put a little of myself into this story. As a Confucian culture, there's definitely a lot of influence through East Asian societies, whether it's China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan. And at some point, you kind of get sick of people telling you what your life should be and the way to do it. Like you want to just take control and say, all right, let me make my decisions instead of trying to fill your expectations. I think you see a little bit of that here.
Yeah, and again, I'm just going based on a very popular television show, but it's a reflection of culture, and that is the theme of Sky Castle. Is the parents are making decisions for children to set them up for success, but it's the kind of success that the parents think is the only kind of success that matters. So, Google announced new features for Gmail, celebrating 15 years since the email service was launched. That's right, Gmail has been around 15 years today. Users will now have the option to schedule emails from the Compose window. This is something you could do with plugins and such, but now it'll be native to Gmail. Gmail's Smart Compose feature is coming to all Android users. Pixel folks had it. Now everybody on Android's getting it. And they said it's going to come to iOS. They didn't say exactly when. They said soon. Smart Compose can also now suggest subject lines, adapt to a user's writing style, whether you're more formal or informal, that kind of thing. And they are adding support beyond English for Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese Smart Compose. So you can start writing in Spanish and it'll start suggesting things in Spanish now.
You know, when I first read this, I was like, 15 years, that's impossible. 2004? No, that's about right. And there was a time when it was like SarahLane@gmail.com. People be like, what mail? Hotmail? Yahoo Mail? What kind of mail? You know, like now it's if you don't have a Gmail account, it's almost a little strange. You know, going forward to today, I love the Smart Compose stuff. I know some people hate it. I know some people turn it off. I love it. It's almost always knows what I want to say.
It's super handy. And I will say explicitly, when I'm holding a child in one arm and I'm using my phone with the one hand, I don't need to type the whole response. Like, oh, perfect. I'll select that one. Send.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there are many times where I'm like, it was close, but it wasn't far off from what I was actually going to say as a sentence.
Yeah, I find that it's good at finishing my sentences. It's sort of, I use it as a shortcut when a sentence is going to finish in a predictable way. It's really good at saying the last few words, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It speeds me up a little. I don't find it useful much of the rest of the time.
Really?
At this point, anyway. Yeah.
Guess you're just a somebody who doesn't work with inside an algorithm, Tom.
I'm not smart enough for the composed.
Exactly.
You don't want Gmail putting words in your email.
No, often it just doesn't suggest anything.
Yeah.
Really?
I have a lot of snappy comebacks, so I guess that's why it suggests them
right.
for me.
Yeah. Like so many times I'm like, yep. That's exactly what I was going to say anyway. Thank you. In an email media statement, Apple Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering Dan Riccio announced that Apple was canceling its previously announced AirPower wireless charging mat. We talked about this on the show briefly on Friday because it was breaking news. Riccio cited failure to achieve high standards for the reason. AirPower was originally announced in September of 2017, so it's been kind of up in the air for a couple of years now. Most speculation is that Apple could make the pad work, but it had problems with either overheating, wireless interference, possibly both. The AirPower was using multiple coils to charge devices with different charging systems at the same time.
Yeah, if you're like, wait a minute, I didn't hear you talk about this on Friday. It was on our Good Day Internet program.
Yes.
The longer version
I should have
of us getting ready for the show
yes.
and right after the show that you can only get as a patron, patreon.com/DTNS. But to kind of expand on this for those who heard it Friday and also introduce it to everybody else, from what I can tell, the idea was that AirPower worked great. That's why they went ahead and announced it. They thought, oh, we just need to bring down the interference and overheating. We can definitely make that work. We'll be able to hit certification standards. And a few things I read suggested that they just could not get FCC certified, that they could not get the interference down low enough. In other words, it worked fine, but it wouldn't meet standards. Other people like John Gruber have said that they've heard that overheating was a big issue that they couldn't get under control either. It's not impossible that it was both, but because they were trying, instead of having Qi wireless charging for everything, if you're like, well, wait, there's so many other chargers out there, why didn't they just do what they do? They were trying to make it so that you could drop your Apple Watch, your AirPods, and your phone on there, and there were different charging styles for those devices. So they were trying to make all of that work together. A little bit of Apple proprietariness seems to have tripped them up. If they had standard Qi wireless in all three of their devices, they could have just made a standard Qi wireless pad and it wouldn't have been as much of a problem. Yep. At least that's what it seems from what I've read. Mm-hmm. In its annual update regarding Android security, Google reports that 0.04%, so not 4%, 0.04% of all downloads from Google Play were classified as potentially harmful applications. Now, that still is a rise. In 2017, it was 0.02%. However, Google attributed part of the growth to tracking more categories. For instance, Google began tracking click fraud apps in 2018 for the first time, and click fraud was the highest number of installed potentially harmful apps that they found in this report. So if you add in a whole new category that's your most popular category, you would expect the number to go up. That's a few tens of millions of app downloads, 0.04%. Sideloading seems to be the biggest risk. Google noticed that 0.08% of devices that used Google Play exclusively for app downloads were affected by potentially harmful apps. However, on the preventative side, Google said that Google Play Protect prevented 1.6 billion potentially harmful app installation attempts from outside of Google Play. So it does seem like they're putting a dent in things, but...
And the numbers are small.
Yeah.
You know,
overall, right?
Yeah.
Don't lose sight of that. Like it's there's a rise in the overall number because they've added some more categories. They seem to be putting a dent in some of the previous categories as those are declining. And the numbers are very small, even though it's tens of millions of downloads. If you're careful and don't sideload apps, if you are selective about what apps you download and only download from places that you're familiar with or have heard about or seem legitimate, it would be very hard to get a potentially harmful app through the Google Play Store.
However, obviously reports like this come out because things do happen to people. You do get harmful apps, even if you're in a minority. So as somebody who is not in the Android ecosystem, Roger, I know you are, how much is this sort of besides looking at some stats and being like, okay, how much do people complain about this?
I generally don't really worry about that stuff. Partly is because I download so few apps in general. I get location, I get whatever streaming service I have, and then something to budget my time and a few other things. But typically I stay away from a lot of the games, which usually seem to be the biggest culprits, whether it's a freemium or other kind of like free to play game where people just download because it looks fun. I usually don't have any time or any place to really play that. So it's not something on my radar. But it should just basically put a warning to most people. Just be careful about what you download. Most people don't sideload, which makes the Google App Store so important on the way they kind of curate it. But between me and 5 other people who use Android, I don't think any one of us have encountered an application that's been rogue or weird.
Beatmaster in the chat room was asking how many downloads that is. The best estimate, as far as TechCrunch can say, is Sensor Tower estimates 75.7 billion Android downloads in 2018. So 0.04% of that would be about 30.3 million downloads, which makes it sound like a lot.
It does. And it is.
The majority of the world's 9 billion people, and half of those are internet users, and 90% of them are Android users, maybe. Those numbers aren't right, but there's a lot of people using Android. So you're going to have a small percentage end up with a lot of downloads. But then how many of those downloads are actually harmful? There's the potentially harmful and there's harmful. A lot of it is things like click fraud, which is not harmful to the user, but harmful to other people. So your chances of actually getting malware seem to be avoidable, I guess would be my point here.
Well, I've got some good news for some of you anyway. THX announced it will debut its large format THX Ultimate Cinema by the summer at the Regency Westwood Village Theater here in LA. The format features dual laser 4K Barco projectors and a THX certified 7.1 immersive sound system. So essentially, THX is taking on IMAX and also Dolby. THX pledges to master at least 30 films per year for its system, and the projectors are compatible with other movies as well.
Yeah, this is cool because we don't get to talk about projector tech a lot. And there, according to the Engadget story, about 18 different widescreen projector technologies out there. IMAX and Dolby are the most popular. They're the ones you're most likely to run across. But THX is pretty well known. So you may notice that one where you might not notice one of the others. And it does seem like that should be what theaters do, is go to these wider screen, higher resolution, better sounding, immersive theaters to get you to come in, because that's when it's fun. When you're in a like really comfy seat with a little bit of rumble and a huge screen that you could never have at home, that's the kind of thing that makes me think, oh, this is worth leaving my house for, because I could never replicate this back at home.
Also, it wasn't that long ago that THX was like the coolest. Remember? It was Star
THX
Wars
audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Audio, right. Yeah. And I think we just moved past having good audio be the coolest, right? And it went from that to, oh, we have to have 7.1 surround. We have to have Dolby Atmos. We have to have these screens with this wall of sound coming at you. It's totally evolved. Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, there's an easy way to do it. Go subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com.
Also, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. If you hang out on Facebook, well, we've got good news. We got a Facebook group for you, facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
Yes, indeed. And we like getting emails from you at feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Why, Sarah has one now.
In fact, I do. And this one comes from somebody who wanted to stay anonymous, and that is perfectly fine. Thank you anyway for writing in. Anonymous says, I was listening to episode 3497. You guys were talking about the FCC crackdown on the robo-dialing scammers. I am a software developer in the telco industry, specifically for a company that does robocalls. We, however, do the legal stuff like appointment reminders and recall alerts.
Okay.
This industry is surprisingly small. Everybody knows everybody. So I have a bit of insight into the FCC fines and those affected. The main provider of the robo service who was knowingly facilitating the spam calls was using a shell company designed to be burned. Aside from paying his fine, if he does, he or she anyway, the ruling will likely not affect the main business at all. It's also the only named party that was named as required to pay the full fine. None of the other named parties, spoofers, are actually required to pay their full fine because they simply don't have the money. They will likely do the same thing, shutting down their company, making a new name, start dialing again ASAP.
Yeah, there's two things going on here. One is the fines generally aren't collected and therefore don't have a lot of the punitive punch that they would otherwise. And the other thing is these companies can shut down their organization and reorganize under another name rather quickly. So even if you shut down a bunch of them, it doesn't mean they stay shut down. Thank you, anonymous industry person, for sharing your expertise with us.
More of you.
Yes, more of you, even if it's a sad thing like that. We also got Andrew, the automotive engineer, DTNS fan from Columbus, Ohio, writing in saying, hey, longtime listener and patron here, happens to live in Columbus. You guys have been an integral part of my daily commute to work every morning for 5 years. I'm so excited to finally be able to write in about something.
Woohoo!
On episode 3499, you guys discussed the Columbus, Ohio story about the Smart City Initiative, and everyone was wondering why Columbus was chosen. And I jumped with excitement at my chance to write in. I work as a design engineer for a big automaker who happens to have a 2,500 plus employee R&D facility and 3 major factories just outside of Columbus. Because of this, roughly 15,000 employees commute 30 miles on the same stretch of highway every day, each direction. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of interest in the community for autonomous driving and electrification. Mm-hmm. The Columbus Smart City Initiative has partnered with automotive industry here and plans to utilize that same 35 miles of highway between Columbus and the factories to conduct autonomous infrastructure design and testing. You can check out 33smartcorridor.com for that. The first step of this was a smart intersection that was fully autonomous a few months ago. There's a story from the Dispatch that he's got for us there. Eventually, the plan is to leverage the automaker's presence in the region as a way to gather meaningful data due to all the traffic and existing research being conducted, and hopefully make our commutes better with self-driving cars someday. Of course, I will still be listening to DTNS every day, but maybe eventually you guys will discuss the latest in tech news and chip toppings while I'm working on a laptop, riding along in an autonomous car. One can hope.
Andrew, if there's anything we can deliver to you, it's that.
Yes. Chip news and chip toppings.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks to everybody who writes in. We love you all. And Tom, what else can we tell our prospective patrons?
Listen, if you're out there listening to the public feed of DTNS and you're not a DTNS Patreon, we need your help. We fell just short of our goal of one more patron than last month. And I would never blame you, but you can make it up right now. If we can just get 2 more than last month, I'll feel okay about it. And you get all kinds of cool stuff. If you're a patron of us for 3 months running, you will at the 2 highest levels, you can get either a poster or a mug with the DTNS 5-year anniversary logo on it. Those are going to start going out to people who were patrons as of January 1st. They've even been sending some emails to verify addresses and that sort of thing. So start now. And check out all the other benefits that you get there at patreon.com/DTNS, including Good Day Internet, which has all the chip topping talk.
Indeed, it does. We also love your feedback. Your feedback makes us breathe. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com is where to send those emails. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 20:30 UTC. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Patrick Beja. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
The Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Did I ever?
Did I?
Did I?
I hardly knew.
Oh.
We're like half joked. Didn't really come to fruition. Never mind.
The whole thing is to only go halfway through a joke and then stop.
Wait, there is a what's the joke? Would I? Something about somebody having a wooden eye. Yeah. It's coming back to me slowly.
We got some good titles at showbot.chatroom.net among all the people in the Discord and the IRC that are watching live, including job satisfaction went south in Korea. Happy birthday, Gmail. Don't put words in my Gmail. Apple ran out of air power.
Post from my Aunt Esther.
What? Post from my Aunt Esther. You know,
I'm going to vote for that just because.
My Aunt Esther passed away a few years ago. I felt immediately bad about using her as an example.
And I'm not laughing. I just, it's just like, that should be a series, like a feel good series. Post
I think
from
my
my
Aunt Esther would be honored if she were used in the headline.
And I agree.
News from Facebook HQ. Facebook turning over a new tree. That's a good one.
Ooh, that's a good one.
2004.
Tom and I were like, "What? You mean leaf?" Roger's like, "No."
Roger's like,
meant tree.
Keep up. Meant tree. Yeah, I don't know. Post from my Aunt Esther or Facebook turning over a new tree. I'm open.
Oh crap! I can only vote once. I went for Esther twice.
So that you really want that one, huh?
I just think it's funny. But I
feel like my
Facebook turning over a new tree is probably the most.
It's right. That's the responsible one to use, right?
It is, yeah.
All right,
fine. And Esther, we will come back to you. Don't you worry.
Do I have that book behind me? I don't know if I do. I think it's over there. My Aunt Esther gave me a book that she liked to read under a tree when I was 12 years old.
Is Esther your mother or father's sister? Father's sister. Okay. All right. Was she a bastion of wisdom to you growing up?
Yeah, she was a sociology professor at Arizona State University.
Oh, look at Esther. Cool. So she knew people.
Oh, yeah.
That was her bag. Oh, I love those people.
Man, I thought I had that book in arm's reach, but I guess it's in the other room. Oh well. It was Lives of the Cell, the science book, because she knew I liked that. Oh wait, here it is. The Lives of a Cell by Lewis Thomas.
Oh, a cell, like a molecule cell, not a prison cell.
There's her autograph.
Oh, look at Esther with the great penmanship.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that is nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, how's the book?
I haven't read it in a long time, but it was really good.
Okay.
It's like essay. It's like science.
Didn't mean to throw you.
Yeah.
You know.
Don't tell her.
Esther, we loved your book.
She didn't write it or anything, so it's fine. Yeah, it's good.
I did not. Roger, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that you also don't have an Aunt Esther, but I don't have
No,
one.
but I have
No.
a friend named Esther, and she
Yeah.
Oh
is
yes, I've
younger
met
than
your
me.
friend Esther. She's
So
wonderful.
I don't want to say anything that would be a bad omen.
Well, I mean,
thing.
because of the word Esther?
No, because of the late part.
Yes.
Esther was the sister of Harold and Harry, by the way.
Was she middle or oldest?
She was second. It was Harold, then Esther, then Elaine. Then
I always
Harry.
sort of wondered about that.
Mhm.
There were a couple of kids where they were like, Harold and Harry, we can do this. It's fine.
Yeah, there were
other
kids in
there.
between.
Yeah. No one will know. I actually really like the name Esther. It's old fashioned, but it's a cool name.
Well, we were talking on It's a Thing this weekend that Molly pointed out that old fashioned names are hitting the charts. The popular baby names like Amelia.
Sure. Well, Amelia's been real high for a while.
Yeah.
Amelia, Emily, Emma, all of the variants of that. But once upon a time it would have been like Amelia Earhart. Yeah, that's an old
That's a
fashioned
vintage name. It's a
right,
vintage.
Right, yeah.
I had a great Aunt Esther and Beulah and Dorothy, and my grandma's name was Stella. So there's like a whole slew of.
My grandma's name was Dorothy. Dottie, as she
my
was
next door
known.
neighbor's name was Dorothy.
I had one of my dad's employees was Dorothy. She was the waitress. But
well, what was so weird was like, I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but growing up, Wizard of Oz was like the greatest movie of all time. Behind Sound of Music, of course.
Okay,
but
here we go.
Right. But like the fact that like the protagonist was named Dorothy, and I was like, my grandma's name is Dorothy, was so cool to me, and it was all kind of in the same genre of time. That I've always loved that name for that reason. I always felt sort of special, like my grandma's name's Dorothy.
I want to know why there aren't more Rogers.
Olivia is the number one right now.
It's a nice name.
Emma, Ava, Sophia, Isabella, Amelia, Mia, Charlotte. Charlotte's an old-fashioned one. Harper's
new.
Evelyn.
That's new. Evelyn.
Yeah,
name.
I actually know somebody who had a baby recently and named her Evelyn.
Scarlett, Abigail. Yeah, these are all kind of old-timey sounding names.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because I always I always complain about the fact that my name is Sarah, biblical name, never really going to go anywhere, like always going to be in the top 20. That's just how it goes. But it's very common, and there are a lot of other Sarahs, and every TV show has a character named Sarah, and it's just like, ugh. But everything that you just mentioned, Tom, I'm like, yeah, you hear a lot of that too.
I actually heard you on Have Such a Good Day talking about this.
Right.
And I looked it up. Sarah is number 88 now.
So that is quite a fall from grace.
Quite a fall.
As it were.
Thomas is number 74, which to me, like Thomas, that's such a common name, but it's not anymore.
Interesting. 88.
Where does Roger fit?
I was always top 10. Now I'm mad.
Right. Roger is not in the top 100.
Man.
No, but that's good. That's why you're like a cool, independent person who doesn't have to share your name with anybody.
Everyone spells my name with a D.
No, I know that's happened, but that is unusual. It's weird.
I think most people would not do that.
Most people do not want to spell your name with a D. I don't understand why the people who have spelled your name with a D have done that.
I think it's because they think of the word Dodger.
Maybe.
And so they
It's
just,
an LA thing.
not even an LA thing, but just sort of like, oh, it's, pronounced like Dodger. So there's a D in there.
I had a guy the other day at Taco Bell ask me how to spell Anthony. And I was like,
did you say T-O-N-Y?
You're like, the way that it always is spelled, like that you don't like. There are not really a lot of like variants of how to spell Anthony.
I got thrown for a loop with Rebecca because There's
alternate spelling.
Oh,
Yeah.
like are there 2 B's or 2 C's type thing?
or they spell with a K.
Or
Yeah.
KAH at the
Oh,
end.
yeah.
Yep.
And then there was my classmate in high school, Molly. Her name was spelled Maulie.
Interesting.
I knew an Mally. She was from Cambodia. Her name was Molly, but it was definitely not like an Irish Molly. Her name was just Molly. Well, it still is.
Yeah, Roger's
still
a
with
nice,
us.
unique name these days, I think. I can't find it.
I think Roger's a great name.
Except for, just Roger Starbuck, Roger Moore.
No, I'm
Roger
not.
Adams.
Okay, I can name a bunch of Toms too, but it's dropped to 73. So
Tom Brady, like all the
that is not disproving what we're saying, Roger. There's a rhetorical trick.
I share some Sarah
refuse to
names
trust
with
into
people I don't like either, but
Sarah Lee.
No. Sarah Lee is without an H.
Oh, that's right.
That is not me. That is a different whole
That's a different crust entirely.
genus
Nobody
of women.
doesn't like Sarah Lee, or nobody does it like Sarah Lee.
It's nobody does not like Sarah Lee. However, we all remember it as nobody does it like Sarah Lee.
Is this like Sinbad was in the commercial, even though it never happened?
Wait,
No.
what?
Roger,
I
have
don't
a
know what
question
that
for you.
means.
You don't know about the Sinbad, like Sinbad being in? Is it? I can't remember the meme now, but it's like everybody remembers Sinbad being in a movie that he was not in.
Oh no!
You could just go out on the street and ask people
Yeah.
like, "Was Sinbad in this movie?" They're like, "Oh yeah, totally. I know. I remember that." Or you can even ask people who was in this movie, and people will often say Sinbad. He was not in, and now I
he
can't
just
remember
wasn't in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like the Berenstain Bears controversy.
How you spell the bear or the Berenstain part?
So do we know who the Berenstain Bears are?
Yes.
Okay, so it was the Berenstain Bears the entire time, but almost everybody growing up who loved the books and the stories and everything remembers them as the Berenstain Bears, even though it was Berenstain, like very clear as day. And it's like a weird thing that went on in people's heads where they like didn't remember it that way. And there have been like many podcast episodes dedicated to this, and I've listened to all of them.
Isn't that the whole Mandela effect? Like,
I don't know. It's
that's the whole
weird
thing
though, because I
people-
was in like I remember the Berenstain Bears. Berenstain, I would have told you like without question, absolutely not. That was not the way that it was spelled, but it was.
It's Sinbad playing a genie in the 1990s movie Shazam.
Oh, that was a basketball player. What's his name?
I'm like, maybe he was in it, maybe he wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It was the big guy who's the sheriff. First, not him.
The movie does not exist.
Kazam. They're thinking of Kazam. I am Kazam. I remember the ad for it. And no, it had an NBA player in it. Kazam.
It did not have Sinbad in it.
Shaq? Seems like a Shaq movie.
Shaq was in a movie called Kazam.
Okay. All right.
But well, what's interesting? It's because in my yearbook, right? I bought it. There was a girl in there that I remembered her last name. In fact, 3 people I misremembered their name the entire time. I would ever think about them like it would be totally misspelled. It's like totally not my name. It's like well, I totally remembered it wrong.
I actually have a name issue going on at my building. There are some people in the back who live in there. It's a separate structure. They're not actually in my house, but they're on my property. Wonderful.
Before the kids get there, just take a bow. Nobody does it like Sarah Lee.
See? It sounds like nobody does it like Sarah Lee, which would make a lot more sense.
Up on the video, which you couldn't see, it said nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee.
No, nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee is the correct way.
Yeah.
Like that's what the slogan is. But nobody got it right. And when you find it out, you're like, the other way is better.
Because
actually.
it's mangled. It's hard to distinguish. Sarah Lee.
It's also Sarah with an H and just like, ugh, makes me so mad.
Well, that's what they get
Like,
for
why would you
troublemaking.
ever like use a name and just like take an H off of the end of it? It makes no sense. Why would you be proud of that?
Sarah Bareilles spells her name that way, doesn't she?
Yes, many Sarahs do, in fact. but I don't get why. The H is cool. Why would you ever drop an H?
Well, I think it
The H
goes
makes
back
your
to
name
what
cool.
you were saying about the commonality of Sarah. There are so many Sarahs, and
I
so
know,
having the
I
H
know.
distinguishes you. It's important. You should be
It's
happy for those
also
Sarahs
it's
that don't
also
use
the
the H because
correct
it helps
way
you
to
to
spell the
stand out.
name. You drop an H, like I'm immediately like,
How would you
right,
spell
cool.
Michael Sarah? Should he have an H?
CE.
That's
RA.
different. But if
Just
it
the
was
spelling of Michael is hard enough. Like we don't need to add extra stuff to the Sarah part.
Striker Rich One says, "What about Little Debbie?" Which just makes me hungry.
I've never seen an ad for Little Debbie. Like
I know what Little
printed
Debbie
or,
is.
or
Yeah,
commercial.
it's like kind of donut stuff, right?
They were like I always
They're snack
considered
foods.
them a slightly cheaper alternative to Hostess.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
even
they're also a
cheaper
little
than
more,
Hostess.
a
Tell
little
me
more
more.
old-fashioned than Hostess. Like they're snack cakes and stuff. They're not Twinkies. They're not ripping off Hostess's form factors. Put it that way.
Were they before Hostess?
Nah,
Did they
they both
proceed?
go back the same.
Okay.
I don't
Roughly.
think life existed before Hostess, did it? Like that's just where
If
my
it
reference
did,
was.
thank God we weren't part of it.
Hostess existed before I was born. That much I will admit.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting
That
at. No,
I think we can say across the board that Hostess.
Mighty sweet, wholesome treat.
Chocolate snack cakes, oatmeal cream, Swiss
Ooh.
banana twins. One after another, there's a Little Debbie treat for everybody. Cello wrap for lasting freshness. 12 to a box for only 49 cents.
Damn.
They're the yummiest.
I remember Little
That's
Debbie's.
a creepy commercial.
Yeah,
49 cents though.
Little
They
Debbie's
all
are the ones that like are one of the few things I can never eat because I bit into like one of their little coffee, little cake things. So much sugar, my back molars were like, my lower molars were hurting. Like, ow! Like, there's too much sugar to this.
Well, folks, we know there's too much sugar in every episode that we do for you. So, video folks, rest your teeth.
Yeah.
Audio folks, stick around. There's more sweetness to come.
Take a knee.
Take a knee. Take a snack cake.